weapons tier list made by Bravel, which is him. As you guys might already know him, he is one of the top player in the leaderboard, and some of the other Grandmasters player here. Right, these tier lists are provided by them, and let's go through one by one. I'll try to explain as many as possible, like why are they in this tier and why are they not in this tier, or why are they so useful, or why are they in the meta tier. I'll try to explain in a way that I understand the most. Alright, so the first thing, Yin Chuan. So why Yin Chuan is in the first place. So let's say if the weapon itself works in the way that we thought. So, by the way, this tier list is all based on tier 3, which is the fully effect one. So, at the start of a round, Yin Chuan will get 100% chance of gaining a speed up. So, speed up is a 30% speed buff, which is this one. Like, let's say Tolan, or let's say Ethan, they are adding you a base speed stats, right? Like plus 20, plus 30. But Yin Chuan, at the start of his turn, he have a 100% chance of gaining speed up, which means he'll instantly get a total speed plus 30% speed up, so he'll make him the fastest expert in the game. So try to imagine this if when Yin Chuan is in your team, he is the fastest expert, and with his weapon itself, he'll get a speed up, so he will be the fastest expert in the battle, and then he can instantly cast S3 to speed up his ally. He could get immunity, and the enemy will get speed down. If you pair him with Ashley, it can even AP down the enemy, which is very good. So it could be a game changer in PvP wise. In PvE, maybe not really, because PvE the speed buff at the start of the battle doesn't really affect that much. But in PvP, it will be a game changer if it was working in tandem like what we imagine it is. Then Raven. Reason why Raven will be the meta with her weapon is because Raven's weapon, before casting S2, which is this one. Before casting S2, she have a 100% chance of getting attack up for one turn. Even though you think that, okay, attack up one turn is like nothing much, right? But S2 is like Raven's main DPS output as a passive. And getting attack up before casting will make her DPS a lot more higher. And not to mention, she is one of the top DPS in the Cliff team now. Then Brewster. Brewster's weapon is very good and really matching with Brewster himself. So tier 3. When Brewster had the reload attack, final damage increased 25%. And this also matched with his R2. When the start of the combat, he gains 3 stack of reload attack, so which means his S1 will instantly trigger this effect, plus 25% of the final damage. And the fourth one, when attacking on not his own turn, damage increase another 15%. Then the R6, your which is your S1, when the target message speed is above Brewster 1, damage another 10%, also splash damage. And then your Rezo 1 also give your final damage of the 10%. So your S1 here for Brewster will be massively increased of damage because of his weapon itself. And we are not discussing about the additional stats you are able to get. We are just discussing about the weapon effect itself, the definite effects. Then Genie. Genie is when you get the Chef Zest, which is the passive set itself. It's not the last one. It's not the instance hit. It's the Zest. When you have the Zest, your S3 final damage increased by 30%. So you confirm will have this. You definitely have the Zest buff already. And so if you are R2 Genie, you're going to cast S2, so you're going to have 2 stack of it. And then you're going to cast S3, which is your main DPS, to straight away clear 1 unit. And this one will further increase the damage of the S3. So her DPS output will be very insane after getting her weapon. Then Tricky. Tricky's S1 will have 100% chance of inflicting speed down for 2 turns, which is a very good thing because most of the time a Tricky will Avatar will like counter attack, and then will also transfer debuff and also inflict stun. And with the weapon now, it also inflicts speed down for not 1 turn and it's 2 turn. It's 100% chance, which is a very good. And if you are R2, your S3 is have already speed down, miss rate up, and then your S1 going to have stun, transfer, debuff, and speed down, which makes him very viable, very strong in PvP situation. Then Sally. Sally's weapon makes her S3 after casting S3, selects 3 random ally unit and dispel 1 debuff from each of them. Okay, maybe you wonder, right? You already cast S3. S3 will dispel 1 debuff and heals them, but this only applies when they take their turn. But for Sally case, when you cast S3 the time, Sally will straight away dispel 1 debuff from 3 random ally already. And if your teammate have a lot of debuff of them, this dispelling 1 debuff from them is very strong. Who knows, you actually dispel the stun already, and then your this 1 dispel can dispel like miss straight up or attack up. So it can be a game changer in PvP situation. In PvE wise, I think not really that impactful, but it's something good to get. Then Zhang Julli. Oh, Zhang Julli here is a game changer for him himself. As you guys have already known, we have a lot of meme making around Zhang Julli, like he's the weakest Shimmer Legend Esper now because of his kit and what he's providing. Like he cannot one-shot people, he's easy to counter because his passive can be CD up, something like this. So I think his weapon, he definitely deserves this weapon. Like to make him viable or make him strong enough to show in PvE or PvP or maybe in PvE tower situation. So S3 when he is going to demon mode, 100% chance of inflicting stun on all enemy for 1 turn, ignores resist. So this is able to make his survivability increase because like some of the situation is we trigger Zhang Julli's demon mode. Then we straight away dispel his stand off and we one-shot him. Right, then what's the point of making him into demon mode? So now the weapon itself is going to make Zhang Julli's when he go into demon mode, so he have a 1 turn chance to go until his turn and at least attack people, cause he's gonna stun you. But it's also easy to counter. Like you put your team on immunity. You're using Hyde that cannot get stunned. You're using Zhang Julli. No, not Zhang Julli. Jin Yu Yao. They cannot get stunned and also transfer the debuff away. Something I know. Yeah, so it's actually easy to counter this, but this actually makes you think twice in PvP. Like, if what happens if you accidentally kill Zhang Julli and your team is not applied with immunity buff yet, something like this. So you actually think twice to actually trigger his demon mode if they have the weapon. Like for now, you just trigger it. I don't care. I dispel it with Tricky, then he died. That's all. Bye bye to Zhang Julli. But I think I definitely deserve this weapon. And if he is it like broken, not really, because it's still easy to counter. You just need immunity, or you can put like Hyde member, right? So yeah. Then the next one is Yamato. Okay, Yamato one is definitely making him very strong if you are R6. Alright, so why? His weapon is gonna provide you after you casting the Thunder Surge, which is your S2, you're gonna gain different stack of the Rashomon. Rashomon is the one that increases his crit rate up. So let's say you're gonna build him 0% crit rate. Then you when you cast this one, you'll get the 100% crit rate, and then you cast S2, you're gonna use up all your Rashomon. Then your crit rate becomes 0%. Then he's like stupid. It's like useless already, right? But with the weapon here, will give you back 6 stack, which makes him always have a 60% crit rate in the long run. And not just that. After casting S1, this one is the S1, he have a 50% chance of reducing his S2 for 1 turn. His S2, if you are max cooldown, is only 4 turns. And imagine you're using Ocean Wave. So after you're casting S2, 4 turn cooldown. When you turn, you trigger before you're getting your turn, you trigger like Avatar, and then you trigger your S1, and then your S1 triggers the 50% reduced cooldown. Then it becomes like 3 turn or 2 turn. Then maybe come to your turn, your Ocean Wave trigger. Then you instantly can cast your S2 again. So you can actually your S2 becomes spammable if you're lucky enough to keep triggering the Avatara and keep triggering this thing. And it always will give you back 60% crit rate due to the weapon itself. So Yamato will be very strong if you have the weapon, and if your Rezo says, he'll definitely be a very strong Esper. Then for Shenpin. Okay, for Shenpin, maybe some of you will think that Shenpin's one is only giving you one stack of soldier, right? And only one ally, and the ally will be random. But this soldier stack will make you stacking. Where is it? This one. When you have 5 stack, you involve to chariot, and then chariot gains a 10% attack and 50% speed. This one, when you're tier 3, is a 100% chance of getting one ally soldier. In a short run, it's not benefit. So like PvP situation, this is not really impactful. But Shenpin is known for a PvE god. Like in PvE situation, Shenpin is going to buff your team with a lot of damage, DPS support, and Shenpin's this one ally soldier, if you keep getting turn, you keep stacking up, it actually will boost up your DPS a lot because you get more chariot in a long run. We are talking this in a long run, so actually it's very good for Shenpin. And if let's say your Shenpin died, and you revive your Shenpin, when you revive your Shenpin, you no longer have the general stack, and then you have no longer to apply soldier to your team. But with this weapon itself, you can keep even though you die, after you revive Shenpin, you are still able to apply the soldier stack due to the weapon itself. So it's still a very good weapon for Shenpin. Tolan. Okay, Tolan's weapon is definitely broken. Tolan is like a baby of Elliot and a tissue paper. You imagine Elliot go to toilet with a tissue paper and then come out with a baby. That is your Tolan. Why? Because the weapon itself is, let's say tier 3, okay? When you're casting S3, which is the one that you can time 0 a unit to totally cannot move anything, you have a 100% chance of extending the target's ability cooldown to the max number of turn, which is the Elliot's S3. Elliot's S3 also dispel all the buff from the target. It also extend the max ability cooldown and one random unit, right? Then for Tolan is he lock one of the unit that you control, and then he also extend the max ability cooldown of that target. So that unit kind of become useless already, because even though after your time 0 ends, you have no skill to use, because your max ability cooldown is max turn. So Tolan's weapon is definitely a win, but Tolan is just very useful in RTA or PvP situation. So if you're a PvE player that you focus on PvE, not really. Then Lien. Lien's weapon is also very good. It's a bit RNG situation, but it's still very good. At the start of the round, Lien have a 50% chance to trigger to gain 2 allies immunity for 1 turn. So this one is a bit RNG, but let's say the immunity she successfully apply on the unit that doesn't have immunity. After you apply it, then maybe the immunity save you for like time 0, right, or some other dispel. So it is very good, and especially Lien is a pure tanker for you, like giving shield, giving you heal, giving you defend up, and having immunity on her also makes it very good. But for this card, mostly you'll be using in PvP situation. PvE wise, is that really impactful? Maybe, but not really for my case. Then Donar. Donar's weapon makes him actually very good now, because at the start of the round, the Donar will get Conductor for 1 turn. Conductor is his passive, which is the one that you receive the Thunder Blessing. And if you are R6 Donar, is it R6? This one, the R2 Donar, when your Thunder Blessing reach max stat, you straight away gain 1 turn. So when you're building Donar, you don't have to build him fast to trigger his passive Conductor to get the Thunder Blessing, because at the start of the game, you already have Conductor. So when he get 5 hit, he'll trigger the Thunder Crack, and then he will straight away get 1 turn because of his R2. And not to mention, it also increased the explosion in the sky, which is S3 final damage. So his weapon totally sync very well with his kit, and totally worth to getting it. And not to mention, Donar's weapon is free to get. Ophelia. Ophelia's weapon is, let's say, tier 3. When the enemy HP is below 100%, which will be below 100%, because Ophelia will cast S3 first, then only cast into S1. Elegant Strike is her S1. So S3 will deal damage already, and then you're gonna deal your S1 3 times, and your S1 damage actually increase the damage, which is very good. Um, she will be very good in most of the PvE situation, but maybe not in some boss fight because so let's say Chimera boss. Chimera doesn't have a HP bar, so the question will be the condition to trigger this damage increase is have to enemy HP is below the 100%. But if the enemy boss doesn't have a HP bar, is it able to trigger this enemy HP is below 100%? Who knows, right? So we have to test this, but so far from the kit itself, it really pairs very well with Ophelia. Then for TA. TA, personally, I don't really like the weapon skill itself because TA is meant to be a cliff team, and at the end of the turn, the barrier have 50% chance of gaining recovery for one turn. But some of the like you see some of the team in RTA or maybe PvP situation, in the long run, TA uh, she will get recovery for herself for one turn with 50% chance. Will make it actually very viable for survivability, especially at the long run in PvP situation and with a tank team. So it's still very good that she have like sustain at her kit now. And then Gaius. Gaius is when she go into God King mode, you get another crit damage for 25% for the first turn. So it's like you go in God King mode, you come back to normal mode, you go back to God King mode, there will be no longer the crit damage buff. But the first time you go into God King mode, it's straight away a very big nuke with a 25% crit damage buff. So it's a very suitable weapon for him. Then Biotina. Biotina S1, when casting S1, if the target is not buffed, 50% chance to cast another S1 again. So what kind of situation will you use this? So let's say your Biotina is paired with Avatara. An enemy hits you, you trigger Avatara, you use S1 to hit the enemy, and then if the enemy is not buffed, you already increase the damage by 50%, and you're gonna trigger another one more hit, and it could actually kill someone already with just using the S1. And for PvE situation, so like let's say Sentinel Hunt, you want to apply the buff blocker. The first hit didn't hit, then you have a 50% chance to trigger another S1 to apply the buff blocker, which is also very good. So yeah, overall, pairing Biotina with Avatara now will be very impactful, especially dealing with the enemy that doesn't have buff on them. And the art itself is very good. You can see the leg now, without the tail. Then Ollie. Ollie's arm is pretty straightforward. When casting S3, which is a law of Duat, the Ollie will 100% get attack up for 2 turns. 100% chance and attack up is for 2 turns. S3 is this one. You gain attack up, so you're gonna like nuke like Chronos, for example, right? And also, I assuming when you trigger the passive, when you cast the S3 from your passive, it also affects because it says and cast Law of Duan, and here mentioned before casting Law of Duan. So I think the passive itself also helps you trigger, which Ollie kinda have like attack up permanently if you trigger S3 and then you trigger passive again, and then if you're R6, whenever you crit, your passive cooldown -1 turn. So he can really rotate his skill very well and keep getting the attack up buff. Then the next one is Unas. Una's here is also pretty good because at the end of Una's turn, 100% chance of granting one random ally with speed up for one turn. So maybe Una's will mess up your speed tuning in like Desolate Land, something like this, right? But let's say in PvP situation, every time every time Una's done casting, the passive will give immunity to all his teammates already, and then he'll randomly give one teammate with speed up, which actually makes your speed cleave team a lot more rotation wise. Will keep rotating the turn because of the speed up buff he give the teammate, and he himself also gets the passive to make him faster, so he can actually apply a lot speed up buff to his teammate because he's gonna get a lot of turn. Lucas is one of my favorite Esper, and Lucas' weapon really helps him a lot because when you cast S3, you have a 100% chance of granting speed up. And normally when you play Lucas, you definitely want to straight away cast S3 and hit them. And after casting S3, you get speed up, so your Lucas is gonna get a lot more turn. And all his skill kit actually scales with speed up buff because of, where is it? Mm, I remember he skills with speed. I don't know why did I mention. Oh, I forgot. Maybe never mind. The speed up buff is really massive to Lucas because after casting S3, then he can keep getting his skill, his turn a lot more. Ashley one is one of the best, and I think she definitely deserves a meta, which is she have a 100% chance of gaining one stack of Rainbow Bridge at the start of her turn. And what does this mean? Your S3 is when you start of the turn, you're gonna gain Rainbow Bridge. Then when you cast S3, you're gonna gain 5 stack. Let's say you are R6 Ashley. Every time you cast S1, you're gonna gain 1 stack. And after you end your turn, you're gonna get another 1 stack. So you kinda have a permanent rainbow stack with your Ashley, and you always trigger the rainbow damage, the true damage, and also inflict AP down. So it's a very very good thing to have the weapon with Ashley. Imagine your Ashley always have your rainbow stack on you. You always deal true damage with your Ashley damage, which is so good. Okay, for Clara's one. Okay, Clara's one. After casting S1 or S3, if after casting, you 100% chance of dispelling one debuff from the ally with the lowest HP percentage. So, you already cleanse, you already dispel one debuff, and you further dispel one more debuff from your lowest HP ally. So, she is only able to dispel one or two debuff. When with this one, she will further dispel another debuff. So your team kinda won't have debuff because of her weapon kit, because it's S1 and S3 also applies. And because you need the passive here, right? The ascension is when the enemy, when your, is it this one? Yeah, grants immunity to allies without debuff for one turn. So this one will make her S3 kit a lot more better to apply the immunity on your team, because you dispel them fast and then you're gonna apply the immunity on them. Then the next one, Elliot. Elliot one is okay, it's pretty good because after you cast S3, Elliot have 100% chance of granting defend up for one turn, and S3 will taunt two enemy, and you also get crit resist, and you get defend up. So you with defend up and crit resist, your Elliot will be a lot more tankier, and then your enemy is taunt, they have to hit Elliot, and then Elliot will reduce cooldown when they hit you, and Elliot will cut S3 again, and then he's gonna get defend up again, so he will keep rotating the crit resist, defend up, the taunt, and the extend CD, which makes him very very strong. Cecilia. Cecilia's weapon. At the start of Cecilia's turn, if your target is stunned, 100% chance of dispelling one debuff from themselves. So let's say um, your ally have stun and speed down. That's what usually we have, right? The speed down and stun. So if you are lucky enough, when Cecilia start, they might actually dispel away the stun, and you don't have to waste your S3 to dispel the ally debuff, which you can save like the S3, or maybe sometimes you want to cast S3 is because you want to dispel away the stun, but maybe when your turn that time, you're already able to dispel the stun, so you can actually save your S3 for other emergency situation, and you just cast your S1, which makes her very strong. It's like a passive that every time when her turn, she'll dispel away one stun. Like Jin Yao is when her turn, she will heal a bit and dispel one debuff, but not stun. But Cecilia is when her turn, she'll dispel stun. No, when when ally have stun, she will dispel one debuff, which could be a stun also. So pairing her with Jin Yao could actually make your whole team no debuff in your team. Okay, Yuuhime. Yuuhime S3 have a 100% chance of gaining one stack of health hand stack of their turn, and health hand stack will actually extend all Yuuhime buff for one turn. But the problem with Yuuhime we have last time is when we cast the S2, we're gonna consume all the health hand stack to deal extra damage, and then we don't have this health hand stack, and we cannot extend our buff, and then you will reduce your it's S1. S1 will cost all the health hand stack. And then the only way for you to get health hand stack is through your S3. But with the weapon now, Yuuhime will always have health hand stack because every time she end her turn, she'll get one stack. So she will always permanently have at least one stack of health hand, which makes her very good. She doesn't have to rely on her S3 to just to get the health hand stack. Nora. Nora is actually dealing a lot of damage. Nora's attack actually dealing a lot of damage because like she can ignore enemy defense. Even though she doesn't crit, but she is able to ignore enemy defense, and then her skilling with attack is also pretty good. And not to mention her passive, like let's say Presto, dealing damage applies true damage up 3% of the max HP, and also capped at her attack, right? But her weapon will give her 100% chance of gaining attack up after casting Harmonic, and her damage, like the true damage here, her Harmonic also deals true damage, but it's not mentioned here, will deal a lot more damage due to the attack up, which also scales very well with Nora. Nora is low-key very strong, DPS wise. Then Nusi. At the start of the battle, Nusi will grant defend up to 2 random ally unit for 2 turns. So depends how you look at Nusi. Like Nusi, people will pair her with tank team, and when you start at the turn, you straight away apply two ally with defend up, will make your overall team survivability stronger, and maybe Cliff team is not able to cliff away your tank team because of the defend up, so everything will be a lot tankier. Then Ahmed's one is very strong. So Ahmed's weapon is when your wolf stage, which is your S3, is on cooldown, your S1 healing is increased by 20%. And when you cast S3, it's emergency of healing already, right? So you cast S3, everyone's HP is max, and then with your passive, when the enemy, where is it? For every 1% max HP of the ally lost, your healing increase. And now your weapon makes your healing even further increase because of when your S3 is on cooldown. So having Ahmed on a team makes your overall survivability very, very strong because you use him in PvP, you use him in PvE. Like PvE situation, maybe with this weapon, Ahmed himself can make your whole team survive because of how massively his healing is. Tabor one is pretty straightforward also. When the start of the battle, which is the turn, Tabor will straight away get a crit damage 25% for the first turn. Yeah, maybe you think like, okay, it's just first turn, so it's not like very consistent thing, but the 25% of the crit damage plus the Necro Sense of the 30% crit damage is 50%, and let's say you build Thunder set, your crit damage output will be so high, and like PvP situation, you could have actually just S3 one shot people, and you are able to keep resetting your Neko Sense and keep on bouncing. So this 25% crit damage is very useful for Taver's first turn to actually one-shot someone. Let's say Taver's one-shot your enemy Jin Yuyao, something like this. Then Hyde. Hyde 1 also pairs very well with him because every time Hyde casts S1, the Underworld Curse is the S1, he have a 100% chance of gaining one stack of the Breath of the Death, Breath of the Deep. So, like let's say Avatara, you hit Hyde, Hyde trigger Avatara. Avatara can still buff, right? So the buff also will let him trigger his stack, and whenever he's casting S1, he also gains stack already. So it will make his stack building up a lot more faster. Like usually in tank team or PvP situation, um, the height maybe cannot stack until 50% and he already died. 50 stack and then already died because people actually focus target on him. But with his stack here, makes his stack gains faster. He'll get more attack and more damage reduction, and when he die also heals more. He actually makes his stack a lot more faster, so it's a lot more stronger.